Hello everybody, JGC Anime here, and today we are going to be reviewing Chainsaw Man. This is a series that's been highly acclaimed, it's been very popular with the anime groups ever since it came out. A lot of people say it's a good show. So after a long time, I finally sat down and watched it, and honestly, I had a pretty good time too. It's not as good as people say. I definitely feel like it was a bit overhyped, but we'll get into that later in the actual review. So yeah, let's just hop right into this. So what is the story of Chainsaw Man? Well, the story starts out where we meet this guy called Denji, who, after being betrayed by the people he worked for, combined with his little devil friend, who was like a little chainsaw devil called Puchita, and basically after the two combine, he becomes Chainsaw Man, and he ends up joining this lady called Makima, who acts as a person to recruit him into her field of slaying devils. And yeah, he starts fighting devils off for Makima with his own little team with this girl called Power. And I don't really know if Aki is technically part of the team, but because he doesn't always work with them, but he is there with them, so I guess he's technically part of the team. The reason I say he's not really is because, well, I don't see him hanging out with them much during the season. I mostly just see Power and the main character Denji just kind of chilling together. So yeah, anyway, so that's a really awkward description of the start of the season. So let's move into spoiler-free thoughts. So in spoiler-free thoughts, I really like this anime. It's not like some perfect anime above all. It's like some majestic, high above the people beyond understanding. It's not some big, beyond incredible anime, but it is a very fun anime. In fact, for the most part, I was laughing as well as just getting so into the action scenes, which is very rare for me with action animes. I just tend to kind of just watch and not really care, but I actually really got into the action sequences in this, and overall it just did a really good job with the storytelling, and I was really invested. I wouldn't say it was the perfect anime ever, as I just stated, but it is a very good anime. And I would definitely put it up there, probably in my top 15 favorite anime, probably being around the number 12 to 11 spot. It's a really hard decision between that area, because it is a great anime, and I had such a fun time with it that it's really hard to put in there. I know some people might get mad at me for not putting it higher, but I put it around the 12 to 11 zone, since that's just where I feel like I could put it, because that's just exactly where it would fit. And overall, I just had such a great time with all these characters. Denji could be a bit much at times, but he's still a great main character. Makima is interesting. A lot of people are very simpish, if that's a word, around her, and not in the anime, but people who are in the Chainsaw Man fan base. And I'm sure it makes more sense if you read the manga, if you're a fan of her, but I don't really get much of that. And more of anything else, I just get a creepy vibe from her. I don't hate her, but she's just she has this creepy vibe that I can't really describe too well. It's just, I like her character and the way she treats the others, but there's a sense of scheming behind everything. In her mind, she's scheming things and manipulating everything. So I can't really take her character in any kind light, since I know there's something behind that smile of hers. Aki is an interesting character. In fact, I think out of everyone, he probably gets the most character development in this season. And I really like that, because I really like his character. He's an interesting character where he's always driven by revenge, and this story does a good job of how that translates into his line of work as a devil hunter. And then there's Power, who honestly is my favorite character in the entire show. I'm just gonna straight up say it. I love Power so much. She's such a fun character. Out of everyone, she just has the most entertaining personality, and everything about her just is so much fun to watch that whenever she's on screen, I can literally just watch her do the most random stuff, and I have fun watching it. She's just so much fun. There are some other members in the main cast which are interesting, like Hirokazu Arai, who, honestly, I didn't really like him at first, but as the story went on, I actually kind of felt bad for him, which I can explain in the spoiler section why I feel that way. And then there's characters like the ever infamous Kobani, who is said to be someone a lot of people will hate at the start, but slowly grow to understand later on. And I could see it. I hated her in her introduction. Oh my lord, she was the most irritating character in the entire cast. I couldn't with her. She gets better-ish near the end of the season, where I still don't like her that much, but I do find the way she goes about things to be a lot better later on. But I'm still not a huge fan of her character. I find her kind of infuriating at times, but overall, she's not the worst character. Just, I agree when people say that she's at her worst kind of at the start. Like, her introduction is so frustrating. I really didn't like her at the start. Literally, after the episode where she was introduced kind of came into play, and she did one of her first massive decisions in the story, all I could think was, I hate this girl. Like, that was just how I felt. Last one I guess I could really talk about is Himeno, who I'm not sure how I feel about her. She's a character who's introduced a bit later in the story, but not like too late. Like, I'm not really trying to spoil anything here, but she has a rather interesting sudden twist with her character that I wasn't even sure was coming, so I was kind of surprised, but at the same time, it wasn't that impactful to me personally, but I'm sure to a lot of other people it was really impactful, especially to the characters. And yeah, that's all I can really say without spoiling, so we're going to enter the spoiler section now. Here's a timestamp to when the spoiler section will end. If you have seen Chainsaw Man, I recommend sticking around to hear my thoughts on it, but if you haven't, I recommend skipping to the end so you don't get any spoilers. But again, if you have seen it, stick around to hear what I have to say. So we're going to count up from 5 and enter the spoiler section. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So, the first thing I kind of want to talk about is the interesting thing with the opening theme and the ending themes. Now, for those who have watched are aware, the ending themes is a new one for every single episode. And for the most part, they're really good. And by for the most part, I mean, there's just some songs that don't really like sit with me. Like, I'm just not into that type of beat. But for the most part, most of them just hit me quite well. In fact, they're already on my personal music playlist that I have that I listen to a lot, and I plan to keep them on there because they are really good. Especially the first opening theme that played during the first episode, I think it's called like Chainsaw Blood, was really good, and I liked it a lot. Although the weird part was I wasn't actually that big of a fan of episode 1. Like, a lot of people said how Pochita was like, it was really sad with his death, and how, or I guess call it Ix, I don't even know if it's a he or she, but Pochita is just, it gives up its life to save Denji and then let him live as the Chainsaw Man. And I guess I was supposed to feel emotionally invested in them because I just didn't really care. Like, I thought it was cool that their friendship was so strong that Pochita decided to give up its own life to merge with Denji and make him the Chainsaw Man, but I wasn't like emotionally attached to them. It wasn't like a story where a main character gets attached to this one character and then that person dies, where yes, it is that in the story, but for me, I didn't know them enough for me to really care. And while I would like to see more of their dynamic, like maybe like flashbacks and stuff, right now I'm just not too connected with them. So the first episode didn't really make too much of an impact on me. But then what's ironic enough is we got the second episode. I love that episode. It is so good. It introduces you to all the different characters, Aki, Makima, and just a bit of Power, who has her own storyline in the next episode, which was really good. And overall, the whole season, once we got past the opening prologue of The Birth of Chainsaw Man, it just kept getting uphill. Like, it just kept going uphill. It just got better and better. So because I say that, why was it before I said that it wasn't the best thing I'd ever seen? Well, mainly just due to the fact that while I say it does go uphill and better by each episode, it's only like a tiny bit, like a tiny little step of the stair, just slowly going up there. And I feel like if it was like a 24 episode season, I probably would have been super invested and probably would have really got into it. But for its 12 episode run, it wasn't that bad. In fact, I loved it a lot, but I wouldn't say it's my favorite anime of all time. I've seen a lot of anime in my time, and there are some I can think of that I had a lot more thorough enjoyment watching, such as, some people might hate me for this, The Eminence in Shadow, which is the show that's currently airing. I've watched every episode every single week. I love it. It's one of my favorite shows, minus its high dive dub, which I think is absolutely abysmal. But other than that, its actual Japanese release, I love the show so much. And just compared to Chainsaw Man, I just enjoy it a little bit more. But that's just me. I'm sure a lot of people love Chainsaw Man, and I agree with them that Chainsaw Man is a very good anime. It's a fantastic anime. It's just not always speaking to me since it's mostly action. While the action scenes did keep me interested and focused on the show, it wasn't always there for me. Like sometimes the action scenes could go on for either a bit too long or a bit too short, and it just like the final fight between the knife and the chainsaw man, like the knife guy and chainsaw man, was probably one of the best fights in the show, and I think it managed to go just right. But some of the fights could feel a bit too short, like when Power just kind of slams down one demon with just like a smash of the hammer. That was hilarious, but at the same time a bit short. I would have liked to maybe had she like crushed it, but it came out like it came back to life and it tried to shoot at her, then she dodged it and then punched out. That would have made it a bit more entertaining to me, but that's just me. Again, it's not always going to be to everyone, and that's just my opinion. One other thing that's actually kind of interesting that I can think of that I wasn't really expecting was the way it's paced. Some animes will just have like one storyline, pace it through like 3 to 4 episodes, and then call it a day, and then that's the end of that story arc, then you move on to the next one. But this story is constantly trying to move the next story arc along from the previous story arc. Like one story arc will end like halfway through an episode, and the next one will kick up in the other half. Or sometimes it will go for a bit longer than that and then kick up the next one, but it never lets you just take a break. Every single story just feels like it's a constantly connected storyline, and it never feels like it's taking a break. It feels like it's just one thorough long story. There's no stopping point. Everything is going in like a straight long line, and I both kind of love and hate that at the exact same time. Because honestly, it's so weird. Like I love it and hate it at the same time because I enjoy when storylines have a finishing part, so I know where to stop and just leave for a bit, then come back and move on to the next storyline. But at the same time, I love the fact of how like linear and smooth it is to go from one storyline to the next. So it's just very conflicting, and I know it sounds weird, but it's a very interesting way of storytelling. And going back to the opening, I didn't hate it, but this one fan theme I heard I thought was better, which is very ironic. Which it's this one by like, I think his name is like Ty McGrath or something. He created a Chainsaw Man opening called Devil on a Leash, and it was a phenomenal song. It's a fantastic song that kind of gets the concept of Chainsaw Man across and how like things go through Makima's head, and it's such a good song. I would highly recommend it for anyone who hasn't heard it. It is so good, and it does a really good job of like translating the insanity of Chainsaw Man very well. And it's not like Kickback, the theme for the actual show, is bad. In fact, it's very good. It's just the other one just to me had a bit more oomph, like a bit more intensity to it that really worked to the story scenario. But again, that's just me. Going off of characters, yeah, as I mentioned before, I really am not a fan of Kobani. I think my biggest issue with her was just how she was just like, all right, the devil wants Denji, so we're just gonna give Denji to him, and it's just like does not hesitate to try to get him out of there. And she was so annoying at the start. She kind of redeemed herself a little bit by protecting Denji during a kidnapping where a bunch of like gangsters or mob, like gangsters, side characters, I guess you could say, were trying to kidnap Denji to take his heart, along with the katana devil, like a mix. It's like a guy with a katana devil in him. It's really hard to describe, but overall, her kind of like popping off in that scene truly made her a lot more of an interesting character to me, and how I wonder, wait, how is she so scared when she could do all this cool stuff? And going back to actually that episode or that storyline with the kidnapping, I just think of Harukazu, which is another character similar to Kobani, who was just like, maybe we should just hand Denji over to the demon and go on, where he just like her was considering at one point leaving the agency of hunting devils, and then he got shot as he and a bunch of other people were shot down by a bunch of people who were dressed as random civilians and got shot, and as he was protecting Kobani. And I feel so bad for him because he clearly wasn't too sure about this job, and he ended up losing his life to protect one of his co-workers. And it's really sad, man. I honestly felt bad for the dude. Although I don't feel as bad for him as I do Denji. Oh my lord. Denji goes through so much just for his own perverted desires. Like, first he just wants to touch some melons, and so he's just like, you know, in more appropriate terms, touch some melons. And so he convinces Power convinces him, saying, I'll let you touch mine if you help get my cat back. And so he does, and after that he's just like, oh, I finally got what I wanted, because she actually let him do it. I was very surprised. I was expecting like a gag, but nope, she actually let him do it. Although I'm pretty sure her chest was padded, so that did that. I don't know. I'm not too sure if he actually got what he was looking for in the end for that or not. But then, you know, after he's kind of contemplating like how he accomplished his goal, so now he doesn't know what to do, Makima just comes up to him and is just like, hey, I'll let you do whatever you want with me if you manage to kill this one devil that we've been struggling to find for a long time. And he's just like, heck yeah! And it just goes and gets ready to take it down, even though he doesn't actually know where it is. He's just like, I'll take it down one day so I can do it with Miss Makima. Like, this dude, and that's not even why I feel bad for him either. The biggest incident has definitely got to be when the character Himeno decides to give Denji his first kiss, and then because she was drunk, proceeds to then barf in his mouth. And it was one of the most disgusting but also most hilarious scenes, in my opinion, where it just scars Denji that now every single time he kisses, he's probably gonna think of that one time where he had his first kiss and it got puked in the mouth. It was very disgusting, but it was a thing. And I especially feel bad considering what happens after that, where Himeno ends up giving up her life to save Aki, and as well as Denji and everyone else. And that's what I mentioned before, that I didn't really know how to feel about it, where we got to know her a bit better than Pochita, but at the same time, I didn't really feel that sad. I was kind of similar to Denji in that way, not actually comparing myself to Denji. No, I'm not going to compare myself to Denji. He is like crazy down bad for anything like sex related. Where he just says how he can't really feel sad about her death, even though Aki is really sad about her death. And I just think, yeah, I'm almost in the same boat where I don't really care about her death that much. It's sad. Yeah, I was very surprised when it happened. Like, I was like, mouth agape, eyes wide, like, what? And then after that, I just kind of moved on. After that, I was just done. And yeah, her death was an interesting one. In fact, the whole storyline with the kidnapping of Denji and his heart was probably one of my favorite parts in the entire season. It was really good, especially since it really backed our characters into a corner that they actually had to enter like a small little training situation to work on themselves and stuff. But yeah, overall, I still really enjoyed a lot of the season, and even though there were some characters I wasn't a big fan of, there's definitely a lot there that makes me want to see more, and I'm very glad I checked this show out. And while I don't think it's like a super amazing, overly fantastic 10 out of 10 show, it is still a very good time, and I liked it so much. And yeah, that's all I have to say. So we're at the conclusion of this video, and what are my final thoughts? It's a pretty good anime. You can't see it, but I'm giving a thumbs up. It was a very fun anime. I had a good time with it. And while it's not perfect, I still think it was a very entertaining show. And that's why I give Chainsaw Man a solid 8 out of 10. May not be perfect, but I still had so much fun with it. And while I wouldn't give it like a 10 out of 10, I still think an 8 to 9 out of 10 is very fair. And I just decided 8 is just the more fitting number, since there were moments where I wasn't super into it. But for the most part, I really enjoyed it. And I'd highly recommend it to anybody who just wants a fun, entertaining, good action series with some pretty great writing from characters. And it just, I can't honestly think of more than like one character I really didn't like during their introduction. And even that person improved over time. So it's already one up Demon Slayer with its Zenitsu problem. Lord, I really hope Zenitsu gets better. Oh my lord, I hate Zenitsu so much. But yeah, again, I think this series was a very fun time, and I'd highly recommend it to anyone who wants to watch it. And I just had a good time. It was a good anime, and while I do wish it went on for a bit longer and had a bit more story to it at times, it was still a very well-written story and handled itself super well. And yeah, overall, it was a good anime. It had some great ending themes, since I'm pretty sure I already mentioned this, that has like 12 ending themes for 12 different episodes. Most of them are honestly really good. I like them a lot, and it's just overall a very fun show that I'm sure anyone who really enjoys action can easily get into, as long as you're okay with a protagonist who has a very simple mind and a weird obsession of kicking people in the balls because he knows that's their weakest point, which I both kind of love and hate about his character. Like, it was very, very interesting. But Thank you all for watching. If you're new to the JGC Anime channel, don't forget to subscribe. I always welcome new anime fans to the channel, and I will see you all around. Peace!